Hello everyone and welcome back to another video on the Elo Digwe football channel. Today I have a very special unboxing for you guys because this is a boot that hasn't been released yet. So you guys can see from this gold CR7 logo, you can probably imagine what it's going to be. And that would be the very much leaked Nike Mercurial Superfly RGN FGSE in the metallic gold star and white colorway. I got it in my usual size 11. You guys may be surprised as to how I managed to get this football boot, seeing as it's not been released yet. Rumors had it as coming out on June 18th, but at the time of this recording, June 18th has not come yet, and I've had the boots since June 15th, so I'll get into how I ended up managing to procure them as we get into the aesthetics and colorway. But enough talking about that. Let's just open these up. This is a special box. It's a lid style, so you can take the lid completely off. You can already see the greatness underneath this paper. Pull this down. Let's push the box back just a little bit. Look at that, guys. Wow. Oh my goodness. These look absolutely unreal. Look at Ronaldo's signature there on the instep. What a beautiful pair of football boots. So we'll just put that down to the side. I'll put it off in the lid. Let's bring the box back and open this side up. Here's the left boot. Get the paper out. Obviously, as you can see, get a tag that says the visual aesthetic on the shoe will wear off during play, but will not affect the performance of this product. Obviously, these are not getting worn, just so you guys know. But put that down. And then finally, you get a string bag. If we move the box out of the way, it's suede, kind of like the string bag that you got from the Tiempo Maestro launch colorway, but you can see it says Mercurial in that OG font here in gold. And when you flip to the other side, you get Cristiano Ronaldo's signature here in white and gold in the center. But yeah, amazing accessory to come with the football boots. And just what a beautiful pair of football boots these are. This is going to be a bit of a different unboxing and overview. There is going to be no on-feet portion. I'm really just going to be talking about the boots, how I got them, the colorway, and then I'll do a brief overview of the tech specs so you guys know what to expect with the RGN model if you so decide to go and purchase this model or the original one, and if you decide to use it. But without further ado, let's hop right into that overview. As always, we're going to start by looking at the colorway and aesthetics of this football boot, but I want to quickly touch on how I actually managed to get my hands on this football boot because obviously it hasn't been released yet at the time of recording, and many people have been asking me how I actually managed to get this pair. So it actually stems from the Nike Mercurial Superfly 11 Elite. So what ended up happening was that I've already bought the Vapor 17 Elite, and I want to get the Superfly 11 Elite so I could unbox it, try it out, and compare the two to determine which one is the better value for money pick overall. Now, online, it had unfortunately sold out in my size for both the FG and AG models, and I knew that my local soccer store had one pair in the FG in my size still available. So I decided that first thing in the morning on Monday, June 15th, I would go to that soccer store and buy the football boots. So that's what I did, went to my local soccer store immediately, and as I went in and I saw the Superfly 11 on the shelf, I saw that they had this football boot on the shelf as well. I think it was a smaller model, though. It might have been like a size 8 or 9. Anyways, I digress. I went to the cashier, told her that I was there to pick up the Superfly 11, but then I asked her if they have the CR7s on sale because I was like, this is crazy. For a little more context, honestly, this is going to take a while. It's a bit of a ramble. So I'll skip to I'll put a timestamp so you guys can skip to when I actually start talking about the colorway and aesthetics. But for context, the original Superfly RGNs launch or release was really messed up, at least for Canadians, because it released on April 7th. I believe it dropped for the UK and it dropped for the US, but for both of them, it sold out instantaneously. I should have bought from those websites, but I thought that Canada was going to get their own drop. And for my time zone, the usual drop is at 3 or 4 a.m. They never dropped at that time, as you can imagine. And throughout the entire day, the boots never dropped, even though Nike advertised that they were in fact releasing the Superfly 1 regen. So I never even got an opportunity to buy, at least in the Canadian market. And when I looked at the European and American markets, obviously the boots were sold out. And through resale, they were going for upwards of $500 or $600, which I was not comfortable with paying for the remake. So I was expecting that with the gold iteration, there would be no chance that I find it in stores because, again, also didn't see the original version in stores either. And so I was thinking, I'm never going to see the gold one in stores, let alone am I going to get a chance to buy it in person or online. So I'm not going to take that chance. I'm going to skip that football, but it is what it is. So seeing them in person when I went to go buy the Superfly 11, I was like, that's crazy. How do you guys have these already? And the teller told me that they'd had them for about a week and a half or something like that, maybe even 2 weeks by then. And she said that they just put them out because they were scheduled to release soon. So they wanted to attract some interest towards them, which was, pretty cool. I'm not going to lie. And I asked, do you have any in stock? Like, have you sold any? She's like, no, you're actually the first customer to notice because we literally just put it out today and we have one of each size available. So obviously I was like, I really just came to buy one football boot, but I'm not passing up the opportunity to get this gold CR7 Mercurial Superfly 1 regen. So I told her immediately, I don't care if it's not even released yet. I will buy it right now. So as a result, long-winded story to the end, I ended up walking out with both the Mercurial Superfly 11 Elite as well as the Nike Mercurial Regen SE. So that is how I managed to get this pair early. Now, again, I don't know when it's going to release to the general public, but I imagine it's going to be very soon. I heard rumors saying June 18th, just because Portugal plays on the 17th, and I believe they're hoping Ronaldo scores so they can release the boot directly after that, but I'm not entirely sure. We'll see what happens, but yeah, I digress. That is it for how I ended up getting my hands on this football boot. Now, getting back to the aesthetics and colorway, there actually isn't that much to talk about aesthetically. I mean, guys, it's literally just solid gold all around. Like, what else am I supposed to say? It looks absolutely beautiful, and I don't think I've ever seen a boot that looks like this. The closest thing I can think of would be the Leyenda colorway, I believe it's called, from I think it was the Adidas X Speed Portal Point 1 that they made for Messi for the 2022 World Cup. That's the only colorway that I think looks very similar to it because it was an all gold base, more or less, apart from like the tongue or knit collar area. Everything else was gold, including the Soleplate, if I remember correctly. So yeah, this is just it takes that design to a completely new level because, like I said, the whole thing is gold apart from a few accents. So, yeah, Superfly 1, in my opinion, was already one of the most aesthetically pleasing Mercurials to look at. So when you make it all gold, like you've really just upped that aesthetic pleasure by like 1,000, in my opinion. And yeah, it's just a fantastic piece of art to look at. It does look like a trophy, more like an actual boot, or more than like an actual boot because of all the gold on it. And I can tell you guys for sure, this is a football boot that I do not plan on using whatsoever. It is just way too beautiful. It's going to be way too rare. And, I'm definitely not going to get my hands on another pair. So it's one of those ones that's just going to sit in the collection without a doubt. Um, yeah, I'm honestly losing my train of thought for what to say about these because they just look so good and that's it. Like I like the use of white accents to kind of break up all the gold. It helps to give a little bit of pop to the gold as much as you can with gold that already pops. But yeah, it's just gonna highlight some pretty cool details that they've made with this football boot. So obviously, like I said, you have the CR7 logo in white, like many of the other accents, which is a pretty nice way to pop against the actual football boot. If I take out this paper insert, you guys are probably wondering why I have gloves. It's because I don't want to get stains on the football boot, like I said in the intro. But if you take out the insole, you can see it actually says GOAT on it. You have CR7 and you have his logo. And it's supposed to be like this kind of sand color that mimics the gold when you look at it alongside the football boot, which is cool. It's still a traditional air zoom unit insole, which is cool. But yeah, that's really nice that Nike's kind of honoring Ronaldo for his last dance at the World Cup and calling him the GOAT by putting that sole plate on the football boots. To put this back in because I'm definitely trying to keep this preserved for as long as possible. And then when you look at the actual gold, you can kind of see it's multi-toned. So on the original colorway, this kind of chromatic gold part would have been a silver, whereas this more satin or I guess tuned down gold would be the red. And so obviously they've done the chrome and the satin. I think it's like a satin gold that kind of gives a little bit of contrast to the gold overall when you look at it, and also helps the gold blend into the sole plate, which just looks absolutely insane. My favorite part is not even the sole plate itself, it's the air zoom window, because obviously on the original regen, they did the, what do you call it? Carbon fiber fake kind of printing to mimic the carbon fiber outsole that you would have gotten from the original Superfly one. But in this case, it's gold plated. So it looks even more premium, even more exquisite, and just looks absolutely phenomenal from the aesthetics point of view. I'm just so in awe of how beautiful this football boot looks. There really isn't much else to say. Obviously, you got Ronaldo's signature in here, which makes the boots even more premium, more rare, because it's like having a signed piece of Ronaldo merch in your collection. But yeah, overall, this is just a beautiful football boot, a boot that definitely, like I said, will not be worn and is going to be the absolute prize, the absolute piece de resistance, the grail of my collection. So now that I've spent so much time talking about the colorway and how I picked up the boot, it's time to get into the tech. Obviously, as a regen model, this is a near one-to-one recreation of the original Mercurial Superfly 1, but it's done in such a way that makes the boot really perform well, especially by modern standards. We're going to start by looking, oh, fuck, hit my camera. Ugh, let's fix that. We're going to start by looking at the upper of the football boot. Now, as you can imagine, just get this paper insert out of the way. It's made from Tasian, which is a synthetic upper material. That was actually, this is something I found out in doing the research for this football boot, but Tasian is not just the material itself. It's actually the name of the company. It's a Japanese company that makes the upper material. So that's where Tasian gets its name from, the Tasian company. It's pretty cool in my opinion. Compared to the original Superfly 1 upper, obviously, as you guys may know, it was very plasticky and very stiff, would cause blisters, wouldn't really break in that well. But if you've seen the original regen model, you'll know that it's extremely pliable, as you guys can see. I'm being very intentional with my presses on this football boot's upper because I don't want to cut any creases into it. But you can see it's so soft and so pliable. And I imagine that in the original regen model, if you were to play with it, it would just feel so, so nice on foot. In addition to that, you get the flywire cables that are linked to each lace hole, as you guys can see here, obviously in this gold, and they're fused into the bottom of the sole plate so that when you tie the laces tight, it really pulls the upper to you and creates an immense amount of lockdown. Obviously, I don't have the original regen model, and I'm not going to try these on for obvious reasons, but I can just imagine the lockdown provided in that boot was next level. And especially when you had the OG lasting of the Mercurial, where it was super narrow, I can only imagine how tight that would have felt. For someone like me with wide feet, I don't think I would have been able to enjoy the Superfly one originally, but in its new form, I've heard a lot of good things about it. So it's pretty cool. And maybe now that I have this model, I might have to splash the cash to get an original model eventually. As for how the upper finishes, it's very smooth and it has no grip elements on it. Obviously, there's no ACC all conditions control like you would have seen on the Hypervenom Phantom 1 regen model, because that model came out in 2013 when ACC was a thing, whereas in 2009 when the original Superfly 1 came out, there was no ACC. So you're just getting a smooth upper, very little grip to it, if any at all, regardless of the conditions you would play with in this football boot. If you were to use them, given how good they look, the ball would really just slide off your foot. It's just no nonsense, very purist driven type of upper overall. And it does feel very thin. I've heard some people say that the original version was thinner, but again, you can't really vouch for that because I've never had the original version. And when you come to the lacing system, as you guys can see, it's a central lacing system, single lace hole setup, as was standard on the older Mercurials. And you can see that you get this tongue standalone, which is also perforated, again, to save weight, like on the previous generation of Mercurial. So in terms of the upper, it definitely pays very good homage to the original. The only thing I'd say that looks very different would be the toe box, because it's more on the pointy side, whereas with the original models, I felt that their toe boxes were more rounded or more bulbous overall due to how it was shaped. But again, I think that it's a personal preference thing. If you really care for the one-to-oneness of the remake, then it may bother you. But in fact, I think it looks better with this pointy shape. It looks more mercurial, if we're being honest. So yeah, just a solid upper from a recreation standpoint. Moving to the heel area, again, you get much of the same in terms of regen. You get the classic stitch and turn heel that you would have seen on the original Superfly 1 and the original regen model. And it features an internal plastic heel counter, which you would find here. This upper portion is compressible. Obviously not going to compress it for obvious reasons. And you get inside pretty much no padding overall, apart from what's actually inside the heel that's not exposed. The lining is a synthetic leather, which is really nice. And it really brings back nostalgia for like those older football boots that I used to wear back in the day before all of these knit-based constructions or microfiber padded heels came around. The main thing that most people were kind of worried about with the regen, I'd say, when it comes to the heel would be the opening, just because on the Vapor 1 regen, which I actually have here, the heel opening was very wide. But obviously, if I compare the two heels here, you can see that the Superfly 1's opening is a lot slimmer compared to the Vapor 1, which was a disaster of a heel area by all standards, more or less. And then when I get the Superfly 11, you can see that the heel opening is more or less the same width. I'd say maybe Superfly 11 is slightly narrower, but not by much, honestly. And then, of course, you have the Vapor 17 opening, which is just miles narrower than the CR7 Regen edition. So it's a solid heel overall. I've seen many people using the football boot, and they haven't really complained about how wide it is. Some people find it annoying, some people don't. And even if you do, it does come with that extra runner's loop lace hole over there, so you can really pull the laces tight and increase the lockdown around the heel. So from a comfort and performance perspective, it's a good heel. It was a good heel back in the day, apart from the stiffness of the upper, which caused blisters. And as such, it translates to being pretty comfortable and pretty supportive in the modern age. Finally, we have the outsole and stud pattern. This is the 3/4 length Air Zoom unit outsole that Nike ran from 2024 to 2026. And of course, you have your 3/4 length Air Zoom unit that starts in here, ends about here. You have the window, which is unfortunately covered by this gold plating. I say unfortunately, but really not, because it looks absolutely fantastic. I'm not going to flex the outsole or bend it or do any of that, but it has amazing midfoot stiffness, incredible forefoot snapback, especially with the Air Zoom unit inside of the outsole. And as such, it was a responsive outsole overall, but it was very comfortable as well. As far as the Air Zoom unit went, when it was brand new, I did feel like it had a decent amount of energy return and provided an extra amount of responsiveness to the sole plate overall. But as you use the football boots or any football boot that has this sole plate, the Air Zoom unit starts to wear down and become more of a cushion element, which for me, I actually preferred, because I have really bad knees, bad ankles, joints in general because of a lot of injury history. So for me, the extra cushion that I got from this sole plate was just so nice. And it's a large reason as to why the majority of Mercurials in my collection are the AG Pro variation of the Mercurial Vapor 16. Because number one, I play on AG predominantly, but also with that Air Zoom unit, I just love the cushion, and it makes the Mercurial Vapor 16, in conjunction with its upper, just an incredibly comfortable football boot underfoot. When you look at the studs, obviously you get chevron bladed studs throughout, as well as some rectangular long studs in the heel, and then a few in for toe picks in the front of the football boot. And then through the center, you have this speed fin setup that was supposed to activate the Air Zoom unit with every step. It had amazing traction on firm natural grass, but wasn't great for artificial grass. That's why the AG Pro version existed. But overall, it was just a very good outsole. And for me, it was one of the top outsoles of the speed boot market back when the Mercurial Vapor 16 and Superfly 10 were still current. In any case, folks, that concludes my unboxing and overview of the Nike Mercurial Superfly 1 Regen. Like I said, this is a absolute grail boot for me. The Superfly 1 was one of my favorite football boots ever released, and I was super disappointed when I wasn't able to get the original Regen launch back on April 7th. So to be so lucky as to find the CR7 Gold Edition in store, and they just so happen to have the one pair, and for me to be the one who gets that pair, you have no idea how much this means to me. Obviously, like I said in the video, this boot will not be worn at all. This is sitting in my collection, probably sitting in the box. In fact, I don't even think I'll display it unless I get like a proper display case, because it's just so beautiful, and I really want to make sure it stays in a pristine and high quality appearance for a very long time. As you guys can see, I'm using plastic gloves or latex gloves to do this because I don't want to put any fingerprints or stains on the football boot. That's how highly I regard these football boots. But yeah, just what a pickup. Again, I don't know when it's going to drop. I believe it may be in the next week, maybe the next 2 weeks. I honestly have no idea. There has to be something behind the scenes with Nike and Ronaldo that's kind of influencing when it's going to drop. I think it might have to do with when he scores his first goal for the World Cup. But again, we shall see. My best advice is if you want to get these boots, make sure you are aware of the drop time and you are immediate on the website when they drop. Because these, if the first regen sold out rapidly, these are going to go even faster. You guys are going to be competing against bots, resellers, all these super hungry people who are very interested in getting their hands on the pair. And I don't know if quantities are limited. These aren't numbered, so there's no like official numbered release or anything like that. But it still will go fast. So definitely get on it and do your best to get your hands on it. First come, first serve type B, because these are not going to be around for a while. And once they get onto the resale market, it's going to cost you an arm and a leg. I think I've already seen someone listed on StockX for $2,000. I think I saw someone listed for 1,200, which is egregious in its own right, considering I only paid 380 before tax for this football boot, making it cheaper than the Superfly 11 Elite, which is honestly crazy. But anyways, I digress. That's it for the unboxing and overview of this football boot. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, do be sure to hit the like button, drop a comment if you feel so inclined, and of course, press the subscribe button and the bell icon so that you join the channel and you get notified whenever I post a new football boot unboxing, review, or training session for you guys to watch and enjoy. Stay tuned for the next video, and I will see you all in that next video. Take care, everyone, and bye for now.